Hey, hi guys, thank you for watching my previous videos. So today I'm going to continue to talk about third method we're going to use to solve our quadratic equations. So we have been talking about chapter 2 on quadratic equations. Okay, so um, in our previous video we have talked about how to use a factorization method. Now I start to realize it's pretty hard to write at the same time, talk and remember things at the same time. Okay, so factorization method, and the second method is um, graphical method. Okay, I hope you still remember these two methods. And the third method is completing square. Okay, completing square. And today I'm going to talk about this third method, completing square, to solve our quadratic equations. Okay, so without further ado, let me continue to talk about the third method, completing square. Okay, so let me write down the question first. So you have your x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals to 0. Okay, so I hope you observe that the highest power for this equation is 2, and you have an equal sign here. So these two features shows you that this is a quadratic equation, so you can continue to use your quadratic equation methods, okay, to solve these quadratic equations. Okay, what we have learned so far is factorization method, okay, and graphical method. Okay, these two concepts are covered in my previous videos. You can go ahead and look up those two videos, okay, on my YouTube channel. Okay, so today I will focus our attention on completing square. Okay, so let me come back to this page. Okay, so you have a quadratic equation here. Okay, so before I start, I hope you are already very familiar with these three formulas. Okay, if you are not, so please memorize these three formulas by heart. Okay, so this is your first formula. Okay, and then this is your second formula. So these three formulas are the building blocks in your secondary school math syllabus, by the way. So you have to memorize these three formulas by heart, so that you can do questions. Okay, especially algebra questions. Okay, by the way, over here is times. Okay, so these are the three formulas. Okay, you need to memorize. Okay, before you can do algebra questions. So, and for today, uh, for the completing square method, so you need to use one of these three to solve this quadratic equation using completing square method. Okay, so to start off, what you need to do is, okay, so you have three terms here in your quadratic equations. Okay, this is your first term, second term, and your third term. Okay, and I hope you realize that your third term here is a constant term. Okay, it's a constant term. What is the constant? Okay, what is the constant? So so some examples of a constant is, so some example of a constant is, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Okay, so these are examples of a constant. Okay, so going forward, I'm not going to explain what is a constant. Okay, so I will just take it as you have already learned it from this video onwards. Okay, so now let me just continue. But before that, let me erase this. Okay, so first thing first, identify your constant term in this quadratic equations. And next, what you need to do is move your constant term, which is minus 7 here, move it to the right hand side, so you get 7 on the right hand side. So once again, so this is your equal sign. Okay, this is your equal sign. And then on the right hand side of your equal sign is what I call the RHS. Okay, short form, right hand side, RHS. And what is on the left hand side of your equal sign is called the LHS. Okay, it's called the LHS. Okay, denoted by LHS using short form. Okay, so with this understanding, so you have your right hand side and your left hand side. Okay, you have your left hand side here, and then you have your right hand side here. Okay, then now you can start to do your completing square. Okay, for this question. Okay, now, so what you do here is, how do you complete square for these two terms? Okay, so in order to complete square for these two terms, okay, you need to make use of this. Okay, you need to make use of this. Okay, so let me just write this down first. Okay, let me just write this down. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, so to complete square for these two terms, okay, so you need to have how many terms to complete square? Okay, so if you make use of this, right? If you make use of this, I'm sorry, I missed out this, the left hand side. Okay, yep. So I'm going to make use of this to complete square for this. Okay, here. So I'm going to make use of this thing, this formula, to complete square for this left hand side of this equation. Okay. So how are you going to proceed then? Okay, so I want you to realize one thing. You have two terms here. Right now, you have two terms here. Okay, so in order to complete square, you need to have three terms. Okay, in order to complete square, you need to have three terms. So for here, for this, so you should realize one term is missing, right? Because you need three terms to complete square. Okay, to complete square means you need to get these three terms into this format. That's the meaning of completing square. Okay, to complete square, what you need to do is you need to convert these three terms into this format. Okay, so how do you complete square for the two terms here? So what you need to do is you need to introduce, okay, you need to introduce one term to these two terms. Okay, you need to introduce one more term, okay, on top of these two terms, so that you can complete the square. Because in order to complete the square, you need three terms. Okay, this is the key concept here. Okay, in order to complete the square, you need three terms. Okay, so you already have two terms here on the left hand side, so you need to introduce one more term. You need to introduce one more term here, so that you can get to this format. Okay, so it's important to note what term you introduce here, so that you can get into this format. Okay, right? So if you look closely enough, okay, the constant c here you can introduce is three squared. Okay, okay. Why? Because if you compare this, if you compare this to this, okay, you realize what? You realize your this x squared plus 6x plus 3 squared will actually give you x plus 3 bracket square. Okay, okay. So that's why I want you to be very good with this formula. Okay, so I want you to be very good with this formula. Okay, so in that case, so that means you are going to introduce this term to the left hand side, okay, in order to complete the square for the left hand side, right? So this is your left hand side. So you have already introduced your plus 3 square on the left hand side. Okay, so in order not to, so by the way, this is the question. Okay, this is the question. So let me erase this first, so I have more space. Okay, so this is the question. Okay, and you have already introduced your plus 3 square to the left hand side. So in order to not invalidate this equation, okay, what you need to do is, if you have introduced a 3 square, or rather plus 3 square on the left hand side, you should also introduce a plus 3 square on the right hand side. Okay, just to balance both your left hand side and your right hand side. Okay, and the reason for us to introduce this plus 3 square is we want to complete the square for the left hand side. So what do you get? So you will get your x plus 3 square bracket square on the left hand side, and then similarly 7 plus 3 square is 7 plus 9, which is 16. Okay, so now what you can do is you can actually solve these equations further, right? So let me erase this so you have more space. I think I need to be better with space management. Okay, I realized one thing here. So I have used too much space here, and I am left with too little space below. Okay, so similarly, so I hope students, you also need to learn to manage your space, okay, while working out your solutions. Okay, so let me continue here. So your left hand side is x plus 3 bracket square, and then you have 16. Okay, so what you do is, so you should realize x plus 3 bracket square is equal to, you need to write a square here, is equal to plus and minus square root 16. Okay, so once you get this, so you have two answers. So one of them is x plus 3 is equal to 16, or square root 16, and then x plus 3 is equal to minus square root 16. Okay, so very quickly, square root 16 is 4. Okay, and minus square root 16 is minus 4. Okay, so for this, your x is equal to 1, and for this, your x is equal to minus 7. Okay, so you have two answers. Okay, so I have just demonstrated to you how you can use completing square to solve these quadratic equations. Okay, so okay, let me continue with one more example, okay, to show you once again how you can make use of completing square to solve quadratic equations. Okay, let me insert another page. Okay, so let me write down another question. Okay, this is the question. Okay, so the first step is move your constant term, which is here, minus 15, to the right hand side. Okay, so once you move your minus 15 to the right hand side, you get plus 15. Okay, the next step is you need to introduce one more term, because right here you have two terms, right? Okay, you need to introduce one more term to the left hand side, okay, such that you can complete the square for the left hand side to get this format. Okay, so I'm making use of what? I'm making use of this formula. Okay, okay, we always come back to this formula, by the way, when we do completed square. So I hope you realize in this case, so you should introduce a 1 square here, right? So if you can't realize it, you can actually see this. Okay, so you get this if you have introduced a 1 square here, and you will get this. Okay, bracket x plus 1 bracket above 2. Okay, so you have introduced a plus 1 square on the left hand side. Okay, on the left hand side here, right? So Similarly, you need to introduce a 1 square on the right to balance your equation. Okay, so this is our first step. Okay, and our second step is to introduce a constant term, which is plus 1 square here, so that we will get this format on the left hand side, right? So once we get this, and then our right hand side is 16. Okay, so once again, so let me do it here. So you have your x plus 1 bracket square equals to 16. Okay, so this means your x plus 1 is equal to plus and minus 16, square root 16. Okay, so please take note here, a lot of students, they miss out the minus square root 16. So just to caution you, so you need to consider the negative square root 16 as well. Okay, so you have two answers here. So you have x plus 1 equals to square root 16, and you also have x plus 1 equals to negative square root 16. Okay, so we did this square root 16 in our previous page. So square root 16 is 4, and minus square root 16 here is minus 4. So similarly, you can continue to solve for your x, and x is equal to 3 here. Okay, this is one of the answers, and then here is x equal to minus 5. Okay, so that's how you use your computing square method to solve for these quadratic equations. Okay, so these are the two answers. So I hope with these two examples, okay, you have understood how to use computing square, which is our third method to solve quadratic equations. Okay, so that's it for today. So it's a short video. I'm trying to make the video as short as possible so it's easily digestible for many of you, because I don't want to waste your time, as time is so valuable these days. So I also don't want to waste my time. So that's about it today. So hope to see you again. Bye bye.